soap Neighbours. I don't think he's going to be in it for much longer either. Again, I felt quite sorry for him, and also having to dance to the theme tune of Neighbours was just pure genius.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I think for far too long in this country, millions of people felt as though they weren't represented at all by the establishment media.
GBNews was needed because there literally was no other voice. Everyone was saying the same thing.
GBNews exists because there is a desperate need for fearless journalism that puts the people first.
GBNews came on the scene as a disruptor, and it has always been a disruptor ever since.
The mainstream is all about keeping the status quo as it is, ticking along quite nicely. They don't want to ask difficult questions.
But journalism is journalism at the end of the day, and we're not here to serve any masters. Our masters are our audience.
Charlie Peters, he gave a voice to the victims of grooming gangs, and now, of course, it's led to a national inquiry.
GBNews exists to make sure those concerns are put forward and people feel as though what they want to ask is put to those in power.
We don't take orders from anyone. We ask the questions our viewers and listeners want answering.
I know what's actually being discussed by my family and my friends.
Us ordinary, hard-working British people have had enough. We've had enough.
They're fed up with the same old establishment nonsense. Everything that we do is opening up conversations that others are afraid to go at.
Why are you illegally bringing people into Britain?
That is our job. Our job is to get to the truth.
If it's important to you watching or listening at home, then it's important to us as well.
That's what makes us the fearless champion of Britain.
Good morning, 9:30 on Thursday the 16th of October, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we're living in very, very taxing times, aren't we?
Of course, we're looking at further measures on tax and spending to make sure that the public finances always add up.
Well, taxes in Britain are rising faster than in any other G7 country as Chancellor Rachel Reeves tells her critics to stop bleating.
Charming, isn't it? The China spy crisis, it won't go away for the government, will it? The political strategist Dominic Cummings, who worked for the Tories, claims China stole state secrets in a security breach which was covered up by the last government.
And two potential chairs have been shortlisted for the grooming gang inquiry ahead of talks with survivors as pressure grows for proceedings to start.
There's a BBC for each of us, funded by all of us. This is our BBC.
And another bad day for the BBC, branded biased by 38% of their viewers who want their programmes to be less diverse, and they're also cutting back on evening TV news to save money. So stay tuned to us.
And there's a warning that millions of pensioners risk becoming second-class citizens under the government's digital ID scheme, as many of them don't have a smartphone. Well, the Technology Secretary Liz Kendall doesn't agree.
In building our new system, we will learn from the experiences of other countries, some of whom have had digital ID for over 20 years. Many show us just how transformative this can be.
It shows how completely out of touch this lot are. Just that bland, a lot of people don't have smartphones, and a lot of people are getting rid of smartphones because they don't like them.
Yes, and we had that story yesterday about the massive increase in cyber attacks.
Yes.
If everybody's phones were to go down because of some system problem or some hostile state, and then we wouldn't have access to our digital ID, and then we wouldn't be able to claim your pension or whatever else. It seems very risky, and it wasn't in the manifesto. That's what I find really difficult to understand.
We've got ID. It's called your national insurance number.
And passport, driving licence, all sorts of others.
Your Oyster card, your credit card. They know they're tracking us every time we spend a penny.
And the problem is, if all that information is in the same place, the potential for risks are huge.
China, they'd just be waiting for it to happen, won't they?
Yes, absolutely. Well, we'd love to know what you think about that story and all the others we are going to be covering today. So send your views and comments to
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories. The Prime Minister has released details of the China spy scandal after being accused of staging a cover-up. In 3 witness statements, details revealed the civil servant who gave evidence during the trial admitted the UK was committed to a positive relationship with China despite being quizzed about the threat it posed. The UK economy grew slightly in August, helped by an increase in manufacturing output. According to the latest official figures, the economy expanded by 0.1%, the Office for National Statistics said, after contracting by 0.1% in July. The late sex trafficking victim, Virginia Giuffre, wrote in her memoir that Prince Andrew was entitled and believed having sex with her was his birthright. In the book, Nobody's Girl, Miss Giuffre details her alleged sexual encounters with the Duke of York when she was 17, which have previously been reported. And Johnson & Johnson is facing legal action from thousands of people in the UK who are accusing the global healthcare giant of knowingly selling them talcum powder contaminated with asbestos. Those are the headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Good morning and welcome. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, that China spy scandal won't go away. It dominated Prime Minister's questions yesterday. I thought Kemi Bent had quite a good outing again at PMQs, putting the Prime Minister on the spot about who collapsed that China spy case.
And it is all over the front pages this morning. Let's take a look. We've got the Daily Telegraph, which leads with Cummings. China stole secrets in major hack.
Daily Express says, Kemi, it stinks of a China cover-up by the Prime Minister.
And then the Daily Mail, which says Chinese stole secrets from Number 10 for years.
The Times says Whitehall data breach gave secrets to the Chinese.
Indeed, it's everywhere. But, of course, this story is really important and I think it is going to run and run. But we think what matters to you is the pound in your pocket and what the Chancellor is going to do in the budget.
And significantly, taxes now in Britain are rising at the fastest rate in the G7. That's the list of the 7 wealthiest countries in the world. So we've got the highest inflation.
Yep.
Unemployment's risen every month since Labour got to power, and now our taxes are going up faster than any other country, which everyone listening, it affects pensioners as well because their pensions are taxed. We're just being taxed. And remember, when the Tories handed over power to Labour, we were already at our highest taxed rate
ever in history.
Ever. Well, certainly since the war, which was shame on the Tories for that. And the taxes going up even higher.
And they've now revised down the growth figures. So the economy grew just 0.1% in August and shrunk 0.1% in July. So it's all very stagnant. And we're joined now by Simon Hunt, who is the city editor at City AM, to discuss the upcoming budget. Simon, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us. Lots of doom and gloom around the economy this morning. We're already taxed very highly, we know that. But do you think the Chancellor is going to put taxes up even further in the budget? And if so, what will the consequences be for people's payslips?
It does seem like that's an inevitability now, which is ironic because, of course, a year ago, the Chancellor promised that the tax hikes that she unveiled at last year's budget would be a one-off. It was a one-and-done thing. There wouldn't be any more serious tax rises after that, she promised. Here we are a year later, and it looks like we're not just going to have some small tax hikes, but tens of billions in tax hikes. It's not clear what all of those are going to be yet. Of course, in its manifesto, Labour promised not to, what they called, raise taxes on working people. In other words, put up things like income tax and VAT. But economists are now saying that if the government tries to raise the money that it needs to, something like 20 or 30 billion, it can't do that without putting up income tax or VAT. It's just impossible to do it by smaller tax-grabbing means. So it looks pretty inevitable now that income taxes are going to have to rise come the budget next month.
Simon, there's a real sleight of hand going on here because they say they didn't raise income tax in the last budget, but they kept the Tory freeze on tax thresholds till 2028. And I suspect she's going to announce that freeze will continue right through the lifetime of this Parliament. In effect, that's a rise in income tax because that means, I'm just looking, the tax threshold for the 40% higher rate has been frozen now at 50,270 for 8 years. If it hadn't been frozen, you'd be paying 40% tax at £75,000 a year. So if she continues that freeze, I think that's an increase in income tax.
Absolutely, yeah, no, you're right. And of course, you know, we've seen inflation and wage growth over the past couple of years. And so simply by freezing the current thresholds, as you say, means more and more people are going to be dragged into these higher rate bands, meaning they're going to have to pay more. And that affects people, you know, working people across the spectrum, including young people, young graduates for whom the rate at which they begin to pay tuition fee repayments has been frozen. So they're paying higher and higher rates too.
That's a very good point. And I'm just looking, 1 in 4 teachers now are paying the higher rate of tax. The higher rate of tax is meant to be for high-income people earning a high income. Teachers, by most people's standards, or the average teachers, weren't earning a particularly high income.
Well, indeed, and even by extending the freeze on the current income tax thresholds by another year, that alone is expected to raise something in the order of 8 or 9 billion over the course of this Parliament. But it looks like there'll be even more than that to come because economists are now predicting a 2 or 3 point rise in the basic rate of income tax come the budget.
Do you think we need to focus on the basic rate here? Because we all understand that we're taxed more than ever in history and the tax burden is higher than it's ever been. But actually, our basic rate of tax is at the lowest it's ever been, 20%. It was 30% in the 1980s, and is very low compared to our European neighbours. Why are governments so reticent to raise the basic rate of tax when it is so low?
Well, I think, you know, part of it is if you look at median wages in the UK relative to other economies, such as the US, they're a bit lower. And so, you know, the sort of level of tax at which people pay relative to their wages is still quite material. And of course, there are lots of ways that the government collects taxes outside of the basic rate of income tax, such as things like national insurance contributions. You know, for students, they're paying an extra 9% on their income for graduate debt repayments. So once you factor in all the other types of tax that people are paying, actually it's not that materially different from other economies.
Of course, the triple lock, Simon, means that will benefit pensions to the extent that the state pension will rise by around 4.8% next year, which is comfortably above the current rate of inflation. But that's very expensive.
Indeed. Yeah, and it's a big headache for the government because this isn't something that's going away. This is going to keep happening, recurring year after year. And of course, the government has committed to that lock. You know, if you look at the IMF's report this week into global financial stability, they do warn that government spending is getting out of control in a lot of advanced economies. That means government debt will rise. The cost of paying government interest on that debt is going to rise, and they warn about the financial stability in a lot of economies, including the UK, because of how much debt they have.
What's happening in the city, in the square mile, Simon? How many of our billionaires and very wealthy wealth creators are abandoning Britain because of the tax burden?
It's very hard to put a number on it. I mean, there's several different estimates that we've seen. You know, some suggest it's in the thousands, some suggest it could be more than that. But anecdotally, it seems like it's a pretty material phenomenon. Indeed, City AM broke the story yesterday that the billionaire Richard Desmond has just changed his residency to the UAE to escape the high tax burden in the UK, and that was just a week after the founder of Revolut, Britain's fastest growing bank, also made the same move. So we don't know the aggregate number right now, but week after week we keep hearing of more and more people leaving.
Simon Hunt, City Editor at City AM, thank you very much for sharing your insight with us this morning.
Richard Desmond used to own the Daily Express.
Interesting.
Owned Channel 5, very clever man. And I last bumped into him at a do about 6 months ago, and he said, this country, I won't use the word he used.
Yes.
Because he was very direct, was Richard Desmond, but he said this country is completely up a gum tree.
Yeah. And the left
now he's
keeps
gone.
saying, oh, tax the rich more, tax the rich more. And of course, wealthier people should pay more, but
they do anyway.
60% of income tax is paid for
Yeah.
by the top 10% of earners. That is the highest burden paid by the rich ever in history. You just can't squeeze people anymore.
Well, we know
otherwise they'll leave.
that they're leaving, and they create jobs, and they are the
Or they
wealth
won't
creators.
employ people, or they won't
employ
take
people.
risks.
I know, it's just very depressing.
Yes, we
And
are
of
being
course,
very squeezed.
What do you think? I mean, if you are a teacher, did you expect to be paying the higher rate of tax, 40%? Say it should, if they hadn't frozen the tax burdens, the tax thresholds for 8 years, the 40p rate would kick in at 75,000. It actually now kicks in at 50,000, which is not such a large salary if you've got 3 kids.
Absolutely, or live in London, but when it was introduced, the higher rate of tax was supposed to be, like you said, only for the very richest, and only 1 in 20 earners paid it. It's now 1 in 5. Yeah. So it really is not the highest earners at all, but it's a huge chunk, isn't it? 40%. Yeah. Then you're adding 10% national insurance on top of that. Then potentially your pension contribution and your student loan. People are losing more in their pound than they're keeping at the moment.
They certainly are. Now, find out why the government's digital ID scheme, which both Miriam and I think is ridiculous and appalling, could leave pensioners particularly feeling like second-class citizens.
Well, up next, we'll be talking about the impartial BBC.
BBC for each of us, funded by all of us. This is our BBC.
Well, 38% of BBC viewers believe that the broadcaster is biased and they want less diversity on the screen. So are the BBC's days numbered?
I could really say only 38% think it's biased. Don't they watch it?
I think it's biased in favour of the government was the question.
Right, OK. But first, if you're in search of some elusive holiday sun, we could do with some, couldn't we? Here's the forecast.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some showers heading over the Canaries over the next few days. We've seen some torrential downpours across parts of Spain and Italy recently. Things turning drier here, however. Plenty of sunshine for Spain and Portugal on Friday. And the sunshine returning to much of Italy. Still a few showers across the far south. The wet weather, though, is moving into Croatia and mainland Greece, although most of the Greek islands further east will be dry and sunny. And we'll see the sunshine returning to Dubrovnik through the weekend. Meanwhile, further showers likely in Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Dramatic scenes in a North London street as police move in to arrest members of an organised crime gang. Inside their vehicle, evidence of a multi-million-pound trade in phone theft. A large number of stolen smartphones are discovered, all wrapped in tinfoil to block any phone signal and prevent their owners tracing them. After a year-long investigation, Scotland Yard says it has now dismantled the criminal operation that they believe is responsible for smuggling more than 40,000 stolen smartphones over to China. Officers have now recovered thousands of stolen smartphones as their investigation continues. Many of the handsets stolen in street robberies end up in shops like this. Officers recovered multiple stolen phones and arrested 2 men on suspicion of money laundering after finding £40,000 in cash.
So my warning to people that are involved in this criminal enterprise, whether it be shop workers, the shopkeepers, or even the faceless enterprise businessmen who own multiple different venues, is that you may have felt like you were acting with impunity and that we weren't coming after you and we couldn't come after you, and that actually the crime pays. So if eventually we do come, then that's just a business loss. Is that we are coming after you. We are going to come and conduct warrants, not just in your business premises, but we will target you at home. We'll target you in your cars. Nowhere is safe to conduct criminal enterprise.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom. It is 10 to 10. And a shocking poll has revealed that BBC viewers believe the broadcast is ineffective at being independent from the government.
I don't think it's shocking, because I think it should be. I'm amazed there's not more people.
Yeah, 38%, still a minority, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. 91% of these respondents, there was 80,000 respondents, said the corporation should loosen its ties from the government of the day.
Well, to discuss this, we're joined by the former head of religion and ethics at the BBC and Channel 4, Akhil Ahmed. Good morning, Mr. Ahmed. Thank you so much for joining us. Were you surprised at this figure of 38% of viewers think that the BBC is biased towards the government? Is that what you would have expected?
They're not saying bias towards the government. It's 870,000 respondents, not 80,000, Andrew.
Oh,
it was,
forgive me.
Yeah. No, it was. What they're saying is that they would expect the government to be. I'm just reading the actual wording of it. Actually, they expect to be independent of the government, and 38% is actually. Well, I think it shows you quite a lot about how people kind of perceive organisations like the BBC and news organisations now, because they're actually consuming news in different ways than what we used to believe that's the case. So I'm not surprised, actually. I think if you look at what's happened with the Gaza coverage and things like that, people are kind of like just confused now. And I think that's what we're seeing here. There's a lot of confusion with what actually is news and what they think a news organisation should be doing, because we've changed our consumption since social media. And of course, with the arrival of things like GB News, there are different news outlets, and I think people are very, very genuinely confused about what is news and what isn't news anymore.
On Gaza, I mean, one of the things that was highlighted, which you'll be aware of, the BBC featured the crying sister of a Palestinian prisoner, but failed to mention her brother was serving 4 life sentences for his role in a suicide bombing. Should they have mentioned that?
Well, I mean, is it relevant? No. Well, the thing is it relevant to the system? I mean, I don't want to get into the details of that. I don't know the full extent of everything. But the thing is, when you're talking, when you're reflecting on something, is his story relevant to her at that particular time? Has she committed a crime in any simple way? Is she connected to his crime? All of these things are relevant, because irrespective of where that person is in the world, they still have to be treated in the way that we would expect to be treated. If we hadn't committed a crime, if we were not linked directly to that brother's crime, we wouldn't expect to be labelled in some way as well, connected to that. So I think I agree with you that it's not simple, but actually those are the kind of things that you have to think about when you're reflecting on something. And I think what this survey has done is shown that I think there is genuine concern about how much interference that politicians can have in politics. And if you remember as well, we've had a Labour government for over a year. So people, you might think that this is people talking about them being biased about this particular government. I think this is not just about this government. It's about interference and how the BBC is perceived, full stop. And I think you've got to remember as well, many people who are aware of the BBC now, they actually don't even know how it's funded. And they think it's directly funded by the government, which it isn't really, is it? It's funded by the public, and the public that's actually for the ability for everybody to be able to watch this, for instance, live streamed television, and the BBC gets the vast bulk of that money.
Akil, I'm so sorry, we are going to have to leave it there. We've run out of time, but Akil Ahmed, thank you so much for your insight this morning.
I think that's really interesting. 870,000, that's a big survey.
It is, isn't it? Well, Tim Davie of the BBC said that the results of the questionnaire are clear. Our audience wants an independent BBC, stories that matter to their lives. Let us know what you think. Here's your weather.
Just more evidence you should be watching us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning. Welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We are going to see a change in the weather through the weekend, but for today it's kind of more of the same. Another largely cloudy, mostly dry day with light winds. I say mostly dry, there are a few light showers around, particularly over northern Scotland and East Anglia in the southeast of England, seeing a bit of a dank and drizzly start in places too. There are also some breaks in the clouds, so some places waking up to a little bit of sunshine, and any morning mist and fog in place will tend to clear away fairly rapidly through the morning, and with a bit of brightness we could reach 15-16 degrees. Most places though staying quite cloudy with temperatures about 12 or 13 degrees. Not a great deal of change as we go through this evening. Still one or two showers over the Northern Isles of Scotland, and still perhaps one or two showers just coming in along the south coast of England. But generally here dry, perhaps some breaks in the cloud, particularly to the west of hills, so parts of southwest England, West Wales, seeing a little bit of sunshine. Staying fairly cloudy for Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. But again here, just like the past few days, parts of central Scotland seeing some sunshine, but a few of those showers keeping going over northern Scotland, and will keep things a little damp across northernmost parts of the mainland through the night too. And we'll continue to see one or two of those showers getting into parts of Kent, perhaps just drifting through the channel into parts of East Devon as well. We could see a few showers. Otherwise, mostly dry nights. We'll keep a lot of clouds, and that'll keep the temperatures up to between about 7 to 10 Celsius, maybe dipping a little lower in some rural spots, particularly if we have any breaks in the cloud. But again, tomorrow, breaks in the cloud, hard to find for most. Another fairly drab day. Still some light showers across the far north of Scotland and at times along the south coast of England. Southwest Wales may again see some breaks in the cloud, as could parts of western Scotland, and a bit of sunshine. But generally dry and cloudy will again be the theme on Friday, but it is going to change as we head into the weekend.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound is delayed due to a broken down vehicle at junction 11. There is congestion on the A470 southbound between Nantgar and Corriton. In Redcar and Cleveland, a collision on the A174 eastbound between the A172 and A1053 has closed one lane, causing 15-minute delays. In Northamptonshire, one of 4 lanes on the M1 southbound between junctions 15A and 15 is closed due to a traffic incident. And on the trains, Great Western Railway indicated disruptions between Reading and Newbury, while Northern services are replacing trains with buses between Corkickle and Whitehaven. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Good morning, it's 10 o'clock on Thursday the 16th of October. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Well, we are living in very taxing times, aren't we?
Of course, we're looking at further measures on tax and spending to make sure that the public finances always add up.
Well, taxes in Britain are rising faster than in any other G7 country as Chancellor Rachel Reeves tells her critics to stop bleating.
Yeah, worries economically. Stephen Kinnock, a health minister, says that we are now in stagnation in the UK economy. How will Rachel Reeves in Washington sort these problems out?
And the China spy crisis continues. Dominic Cummings, remember him? He was Boris Johnson's advisor once upon a time. He says China stole state secrets in a major security breach that was covered up by the last government.
And 2 chairs have been shortlisted for the grooming gang inquiry ahead of talks with survivors as pressure grows for proceedings to start.
There's a BBC for each of us, funded by all of us. This is our BBC.
Bad day for the BBC. They've been branded biased in favour of the government by 38% of their viewers in a major new survey. Those same viewers also want programmes to be less diverse.
Elsewhere, there's a warning that millions of pensioners risk becoming second-class citizens under the government's digital ID scheme, as many of them don't have a smartphone. Well, Technology Secretary Liz Kendall doesn't agree.
In building our new system, we will learn from the experiences of other countries, some of whom have had digital ID for over 20 years. Many show us just how transformative this can be.
Andrew, that survey about the BBC is really interesting. And the BBC has had a really important part of this country for decades and actually is recognised abroad. But I think a lot of people think it's biased, not necessarily with how they report, but the stories they choose, which are often wildly different to all the other media outlets.
And this is a massive survey, 850,000 viewers. And also, they're going to have to make cuts in the current affairs budget because fewer and fewer people are paying for the licensing, which is past itself by date.
Absolutely. And our last guest was saying how so many people get their news from social media now. Can the BBC survive in its current form in a social media age? It's very difficult to see what's forward for it, but
it's still employing around 20,000 people. That figure just staggers me.
Match of the Day viewing figures down a lot since Gary Lineker left. I know it's your favourite programme, Andy.
Never watched it. I watched
Such
it, actually.
a football fan.
I did watch it when Lineker wasn't on.
No,
when there was that
interesting.
boycott or ban or something, he was suspended or something, wasn't it?
They just played football instead of commentary or something.
They did, yeah.
Well, let us know what you think by sending your comments to gbnews.com/your say.
First, here's the headlines with Tatiana Sanchez.
Good morning. The top stories. Well, that breaking news this hour that according to a provisional cause of death given at the opening of his inquest, former boxing champion Ricky Hatton took his own life. The 46-year-old was discovered unresponsive by his manager on the morning of Sunday, the September the 14th, at his house in Hyde in Greater Manchester, a court's been told. The details were given during a brief 10-minute hearing as the inquest into the death of the former boxer was opened and adjourned until March next year. His death sparked a debate over whether enough is done to help sporting stars after retirement. The Prime Minister has released details of the China spy scandal after being accused of staging a cover-up. In 3 witness statements, details reveal the civil servant who gave evidence during the trial admitted the UK was committed to a positive relationship with China, despite being quizzed about the threat it posed. Sensitive material on the Conservative leadership race was also supposedly leaked. The accused spies, Mr Cash and Mr Berry, both denied any wrongdoing after the case collapsed last month. Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride spoke to GB News.
National Security Advisor, you would think, would be across something as significant as this, but the suggestion is that it was all weighted or focused on his deputy, a civil servant, and I think most people would say that just sounds totally incredulous. Look, it does feel a bit like a cover-up. We've had a Prime Minister that just 48 hours ago was telling us that the evidence that's now been released could not be released, and yet changed his position yesterday in Prime Minister's questions. What we are saying is let's get to the bottom of exactly what happened. Let's have that information. Let's have the correspondence, the memos, etc. Around this activity so that we can make a proper assessment.
Elsewhere, Rachel Reeves says higher taxes on the UK's wealthy will form part of next month's budget, as she shrugged off the scaremongering and bleating of her critics and stressed her determination to repair the public finances. Speaking in Washington, where she's attending the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund, the Chancellor told The Guardian there won't be a return to austerity and hinted at tax increases for the most well-off. Health Minister Stephen Kinnock told GB News the UK economy continues to grow because of the decisions the Chancellor has made.
The UK was the highest growing economy in the G7 in the first 6 months of this year. We've had 5 interest rates cut. We've seen significant growth in investment thanks to the changes to the borrowing rules that were made. We've seen wages going up, and as a result of the investment that we've been able to do in our NHS thanks to the decisions that the Chancellor made, we've seen 5 million additional appointments, 2,000 GPs on the front line, the best settlement for pharmacy in many, many years. Just some examples of how we're rebuilding our public services thanks to the decisions that the Chancellor made at the last budget.
Well, that, as the UK economy grew slightly in August, helped by an increase in manufacturing output, according to the latest official figures. The economy expanded by 0.1%, the Office for National Statistics said, after contracting by 0.1% in July. The government has made boosting the economy a key priority, and pressure is mounting ahead of the budget next month, but economists expect growth to remain sluggish over the next few months. And finally, the late sex trafficking victim Virginia Giuffre wrote in her memoir that Prince Andrew was entitled and believed having sex with her was his birthright. In the book Nobody's Girl, Miss Giuffre details her alleged sexual encounters with the Duke of York when she was 17, which have been previously reported. Prince Andrew has always denied the allegations. She also describes her manipulation by Jeffrey Epstein, who took his own life while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who was jailed for recruiting young girls for Epstein. In extracts reported in The Guardian and The Times, Virginia Giuffre said she was introduced to Prince Andrew in March of 2001 while staying at Maxwell's house near Hyde Park in London. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more from me in half an hour.
I'm going to talk about this.
Welcome back. You're watching Britain's Newsroom. We're live across the United Kingdom on GB News with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
Got lots of texts and emails coming in, I think.
We have, yeah, particularly about this BBC story, the allegations that it's biased. Martin says, anyone who doubts that the BBC is biased should check out the panel and audience selection for BBC Question Time. Yes, I've heard that one before. And Tim says, I can't face watching BBC News now. I used to really enjoy Question Time and Daily Politics, but not now. Maybe it's me getting old and grumpy.
No,
well,
I think
other people are
years ago they used to the Question Time used to employ people to ensure that the audience was balanced in the sense there'd be so many Tories, so many Labours, Liberal Democrats, so many floating voters. Now they just boo and jeer, and
I think they still do, in theory, select people proportionately in terms of how they voted, but it doesn't seem to work out like that, does it? But I think it's the story selection. I don't think it's just how it's reported. Sometimes they report stories that seem completely irrelevant and nobody else is reporting them.
Yeah, I know.
But it is a great institution. I want it to survive.
I do too, but it's too big. It does too much, and it doesn't need to do as much. And I don't see why they need to have Newsnight at 10:30 on the BBC Two. We've had half an hour, 35 minutes of news on BBC One. They could do. They could
never have too much news, Andrew.
Well, do you watch Newsnight?
No.
Talking about bias. Well, there we are. You see, and who does? And it's terribly expensive. They've cut it from 45 minutes to half an hour. You should be watching us at 10:30.
Absolutely. Well, do let us know what you think on gbnews.com/your say.
Now, the Institute for Fiscal Studies, very respected by Rachel Reeves when she was in opposition, has said that the Chancellor needs to be bold when she delivers her budget or face Groundhog Day with more cuts and tax rises next year.
Well, we're joined now by the GB News political editor, Christopher Hope. Good morning, Chris. It's still a long time until the budget in November. The speculation is mounting. What do you make of Rachel Reeves' comments to The Guardian over in Washington, D.C.?
Well, morning both. I think she's stating the obvious that a budget will do tax and spend. That's what she said she's looking at. We know that. We know that's how they try and balance the books. But I thought this report that you're highlighting there from the Institute for Fiscal Studies is fascinating. They are saying that if Rachel Reeves were to cut the benefits bill, that would regain the confidence of the bond markets. Now, what that means in layman's terms is if you cut this enormous bill, maybe hitting £100 billion by the end of the decade, or try and look like you want to start doing it meaningfully, that'll mean that the cost of borrowing our debt on the markets, that will fall, and that will ease the deficit. That is a very, very tough choice. This government has so far completely shirked, failing to cut £5 billion from the benefits bill back in the summer. And, you know, we thought when Pat McFadden was made the welfare secretary in that reshuffle caused by Angela Rayner's resignation last month, that this may be where it's going. So I wonder if the conversation will be better aimed at the cost of paying people not to work rather than the opportunity of taxing those who are working. But Stephen Kinnock, who's the health minister, he's in the government, of course. He said today, didn't he, earlier, that we are coming through a period of 14 years of Tory neglect and incompetence. Well, that's a political knockabout. But then he said, crucially, this stagnation is going to take a long while to overcome, and that's where we are with the economy. We grew by 0.2% this year. They expect the figures for August are not great, growing by 0.1%, and then falling by 0.1% in July. The economy isn't growing. If inflation is going up, we all feel poorer. This government's got a challenge. Will it grasp that nettle and cut the benefits bill? That, I think, is where the debate needs to be moving.
Chris, I don't see how they're going to cut benefits when they ducked it last year because of the revolt, earlier this year because of the revolt, and they're only going to try and cut the benefits bill by £4 to £5 billion. But also, has Stephen Kinnock let the cat out of the bag talking about stagflation? We've not heard any minister use that expression before, even though it's patently obvious that's what's happened to the economy.
Yeah, it's in this case, it's stagnation. And what that means for economists, it means there's a long period of slow economic growth plus high unemployment. And it's the back end of that, the high unemployment, which is so worrying. We are seeing employers less keen to hire people. And, of course, they're blaming the increase in the cost of employing people by increasing national insurance on employers. It looks like there's two things happening here. The economy isn't growing and it's more costly to employ people. So unemployment is getting worse, and that is stagnation. That is really bad and hard to get out of. And I wonder whether we need to hear more from this government, as I say, on cutting the benefits bill. And that cut, the £5 billion slice off the top of that increasing bill in July, they couldn't do, Andrew, wasn't a cut in the bill. It was stopping it going up by a bigger amount. It was due to rise by maybe 10 billion, and now would do that. So removing a 5 billion increase isn't cutting the bill at all.
And unemployment rising, Chris, means one thing: the benefits bill goes even higher.
Yeah. and this is what they call this doom loop, where they can't seem to escape it, and they keep coming back for more from the wealthy, and the richest of Brits just leave the country or find more elaborate ways to avoid tax. That's what happens normally if you go after the rich too much. That's why we saw the Tories cut the top rate of income tax back in the 80s, and that was where we've been for about 30 or 40 years now. But increasing taxes does force more avoidance, legal avoidance, and that's a problem for the Exchequer.
No good options there. Chris Hope, thank you so much. And another 6 weeks of speculation before the budget.
Having such a late budget, it's just not good.
No,
in that vacuum, lurid speculation, and I just think more and more people are going to leave the country.
Indeed. Well, moving on now, 2 potential chairs of the National Grooming Gang inquiry are set to meet and speak with survivors engaging with the Home Office.
Joining us now is our GB News reporter, national reporter Charlie Peters, who's done so much about the grooming scandal. Do we know who these potential chairmen are?
Well, I understand that they are likely to be non-judges, and The Guardian reported earlier this week that the Home Office was struggling to approach legal chairs of this, potential chairs of this inquiry, due to frustrations felt over the ICSA process, that 7-year-long inquiry that had multiple chairs and then led to Alexis Jay taking over eventually. And of course, that report came out on the same day that Liz Truss resigned as Prime Minister, so it really got a muted reception. There was a lot of frustration that day. Even at GB News, we were there covering ICSA coming out, but then suddenly the whole political system was turned upside down. And of those 20 recommendations that she made, very few have been progressed. Indeed, Labour said they've committed to them, but then gone against some of those commitments quite quietly, I'd say, as well, earlier this year. So with these 2 potential chairs that we revealed are going to be up for interview from a panel of survivors next week, I think they're likely to have non-legal backgrounds.
And who does make the choice in the end?
Well, it lies with the Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, and the Prime Minister. And we're being told by the Home Office that basically the panel is there to take the account of survivors and victims in this process as it goes forward. But they've also been gathering this panel to take their views on the terms of reference as well. But what's quite curious is that I understand that the terms of reference have already basically been decided. So what is the purpose of this survivor-led approach of bringing them in to take their views if much of that's already been done already? And of course, while the terms of reference have been drafted, they can't be finalised under the Inquiries Act until a chair formally accepts them in that role.
Now, one of the concerns that you've raised before is in terms of the expansion of the investigation to include child abuse beyond group-based child abuse, perhaps looking at online abuse, other forms of child abuse, which are, of course, horrendous, but would dilute the inquiry.
Yeah, and this is a concern we've heard from many of the survivors on that process, engaging with the Home Office. They shared that with us over the last couple of weeks. We put that out on Monday night, and in The Sun today, Katie Lamb, a Conservative MP who's been making a lot of noise about this issue in her first year in the Commons, she's echoed those concerns today, saying that she fears it could be diluted or expanded in such a way that it essentially avoids the precise questioning that survivors and indeed the country really needs to see justice done in this case. We've also heard from the Labour MP for Rotherham, Sarah Champion. She said that the hope survivors felt is starting to fade, because as of this week, 4 months has passed. We've now seen a couple of Labour MPs, one just this morning, signing a motion put forward by Rupert Lowe, the independent MP, who's urging more information to come out on this process and for the government to give an update and formalise what's going on. But 4 months have passed. The Home Office say that they've got this inquiry well-resourced, it's got all the powers it needs, but the concerns we're hearing is, have you got the right chair and have you got the right focus?
And why are lawyers so reluctant to be involved in this? They think they fear the reputational damage, they fear they're going to be sacked halfway through like the ICSA chairs were?
I think it's a bit of both. And also, as we know, it's taken so long for the country to have this moment of reckoning, to look properly at this crisis because of how difficult and disturbing this debate is. We're talking about some of the worst crimes imaginable, but also it's not just that, it's also who's doing them. The over-representation of British Pakistanis, that does create a lot of a political correctness instinct within a lot of judges who perhaps just don't want to go there. Now, when the inquiry was announced in June, my recommendation for what it's worth. I thought perhaps we should get a foreign judge who's not been tainted by decades of political manoeuvring and awkwardness over this issue. Indeed, for ICSA, they looked at a judge from New Zealand for that process. That fell out because of comments she made, apparently, about South Asians herself. So perhaps that could be an opportunity for them to take, but as I understand it, they're not looking there.
Fascinating. They should get on with it, though.
Yeah, I think the time is running out. I think.
Yeah. And we need more Labour MPs to start saying so too.
And if they don't launch soon, the real fear we're hearing from David Greenwood, a solicitor in the north of England who represents many of these victims, is basically this could return after the next election. Labour might like that.
Yeah,
they might, and it might. There might be a lot of Labour councillors who are left off the hook.
Indeed. All right,
Charlie Peters, thank you very much for that.
Up next, we have the shocking story about a UK university comparing Mrs Thatcher to guess who? Adolf Hitler. Can you believe it? Unbelievable universities, aren't they? This is Britain's Newsroom, Britain's favourite morning show on GB News.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
For anybody who doesn't know, Huntington's is a rare neurological disorder. It affects the body, mind, and the whole system through a faulty gene passed down through families. And it just causes absolute havoc. And, it affects everything, every part of you, and it's in the most horrendous way. And the knock-on effect of all the families it affects is enormous. It really is. So.
Well, as we heard there from the professor, he says this changes everything. Is that how you see this, as a major breakthrough?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what we've been hoping for. But, we're a pretty realistic bunch as well. But we, I still can't believe it, to be perfectly honest. I keep pinching myself and thinking, oh, my God, is this actually happening? Because that's how much it means. It really does. We'll try and do our bit for charities and, raise the funds for UCL so they can do these amazing trials and get involved as much as we can, but still.
I mean, it's not as straightforward as having an injection or taking a pill. I mean, I've read that it involves an 18-hour operation during which this particular drug is actually injected into the brain and starts to affect the DNA.
18 hours of brain surgery. I'd take 180 hours of brain surgery over the horrors that lie ahead with Huntington's disease. So, to some people it might sound pretty grueling, but actually it's just the most exciting thought, having the opportunity given to us to be in this position, to go to surgery and, make a real difference.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 22 minutes past 10. You're watching Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
We have our panel here, which is Karen Malone and Andy Williams. Good to see you both.
Hello.
Good morning.
China. This it stalks the government. It's not going away. And I thought Camille Baynott actually was pretty effective in the comments yesterday.
She was.
was, yes.
She's getting better, isn't she?
She is, yeah, but you know, there was a poll yesterday that said that the Tories would only get something like 7 seats.
I know.
It was an election. What was it, Reform 430 something?
They're 3 points ahead of the Greens now, the Tories.
I know, I mean, they are...
That was a pre-conference poll, but we'll very soon know whether or not the conference had an effect.
Well, I was going to say, it does matter, actually. It hugely matters, doesn't it? Because, as we were saying last week, we haven't seen any polls yet. So, yeah, it does matter.
And she did have a good speech yesterday, but is anybody listening to the Tory party, Malone?
I think they're not. And the thing is, no, they're not. And she did perform very well, and she did put him on the spot. But as usual, he just he either doesn't answer, you know, he
slippery lawyer.
I can't say the word obfuscates, or he just lies. Yes. And yesterday he lied in Parliament. You know, he was asked if Jonathan Powell, the National Security Advisor, was the only person who knew about all of this evidence and the case of, and he said yes. Well, it's not true, because, as you know, the Sunday Times did a story at the weekend saying that there'd been a meeting between Powell and this other guy, the Foreign Affairs guy. Anyway, and the meeting had taken place, and Starmer said it hadn't. So, you know, this is the guy who, if you remember, you know, when Boris was in power, was forever saying there has to be transparency and, you know, honesty and all the rest of it, and wanted Boris to resign when it had been suggested he lied to Parliament. Well, why isn't it happening to him? Why are the same rules that applied to the Tories not applying to the Labour Party?
Well, I don't know if it is clear that the Prime Minister lied to Parliament yesterday. I mean, we'll see. And obviously, if he did, that's a resignation matter, right?
He wouldn't resign.
He might be forced to. But I don't think we know that he did lie to Parliament yesterday. But I think the bigger question here is we need to have a really serious think strategically as a country about what is our position on China. It's a really, really difficult question.
Well,
we know that it is a rogue state. We know that absolutely. And we need to be thinking about China in exactly the same way as we're thinking about Russia.
But we're not,
and the reality is. And the only reason we're not is because of the trade.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, but exactly. We have a Prime Minister who's willing to put the security of this country at stake to get a few crumbs of trade from China.
But it's not a few crumbs. That's the problem. If it was Russia or a minor country, then it would be worth cutting ourselves off from all links. But we do need Chinese trade, and whether we like it or not, we have sold out to Chinese over the past 20, 30 years, and there's no going back.
And I agree with that. And actually, it's all well and good us sitting here and saying, well, it's obvious they're rogue state and they should be persona non grata, but that's not how real politics works. And I think any Prime Minister, any mainstream Prime Minister would look at this and go, well, actually, it's a bit more complicated.
But most Prime Ministers would look at, you know, he hasn't even had the guts to stop the building of the Chinese super embassy. Yeah. He doesn't need to have that for trade, because we know that embassy is going to have a basement and it's going to have a listening room, and they're going to hear everything that goes on in this country. And we know already from Dominic Cummings today that in 2020 there was a major leak of secrets from this country. And Cummings said it was hugely dangerous. What's going to happen when we let them operate in London?
And the thing is, Andy, OK, China are an important trading partner, so that's OK then that potentially somebody in government crashed a prosecution of 2 potential spies who were, one of whom was working in Parliament, handing over potentially highly sensitive information to China. That's OK then. We'll just cover that up. I'm not saying the spying continue because we want to do trade with China. There's a dilemma there, and once upon a time, Labour had something called an ethical foreign policy. Do you remember that?
I do, and that's exactly right. But it's complicated. You know, I think that they should be dropping this prosecution. No, but it is. Yes. Well, I think it is, because if you start going around the world and saying we're not going to do any business with you, and when I say business, I mean diplomacy as well as trade. If you start going around the world and saying, well, we don't like the way you're behaving in this way, so we're going to stop having any ties with you, you'd find you had very few friends. I mean,
we've put massive sanctions on Russia when they have committed crimes on British soil, when they have done things that are against us. But we're very quick to punish Russia, but why aren't we quick to punish?
But Carol, I'll give you an example. I'm not anti-American, but look at the way America behaves sometimes. You know, if we said, well, look, they imprisoned a bunch of people in Guantanamo Bay and tortured them and invaded countries left, right, and centre in a completely unethical. But it doesn't matter. The point is that
look at China.
All of this is very, very, very complicated. I totally agree, and it's shocking.
Look at this country. We invaded Iraq.
Yes, exactly.
And
so if you're going to talk about human rights,
the Middle East is paying the price still.
The point is, I think we need to we all agree on the facts. So we need to agree on a pathway forward as a country, how we're going to deal with this. And it's really, really complex.
And it's still really difficult to understand why the CPS did not have enough evidence to bring this case, given all the public statements that have been made.
Well, I suspect they did.
They said they
Well,
did.
exactly. And also, spying is illegal, whether or not the country that you're spying for is seen as an adversary. So I think there's something that we're yet to discover.
And we've had the former Cabinet Secretary, Simon Case, the current head of the Director of Public Prosecutions and a former head of MI6 all saying this government isn't telling it straight.
And also, remember...
That's pretty serious stuff, Andy.
It is serious. I think you made exactly the right point, Andrew, which is that you know when a story like this is not going away, the lobby know that there's something else that we don't know here, and they're not letting it go.
One of the lies that Starmer has told is that the government... Well, Kemi Badenoch asked for the witness statements, for the evidence, so that both the media and the public could see if ministers were telling the truth. And the government lied and said that the CPS had said they shouldn't hand over those statements. The CPS came straight out and said, that's a lie, we didn't say that. We're very willing to
Although it is the CPS now that are under the spotlight because what they've said doesn't add up. With regards to what the Deputy Security Advisor says. It's going to run and run.
Who's been named in the Commons as the person, effectively, who crashed it.
Yes, because he was going to give a witness statement saying China was an enemy. And then that backtracked. So very, very complex.
Throwing a civil servant under the bus to protect Jonathan Powell.
However you could it, we're being lied to. The country is being lied to about what has happened
Is the reason it's not a major... people aren't talking about this in the dog and duck, Andy, because it's very complicated?
It is complicated.
Yes, and also I think that people are much more concerned about the things that affect that directly affect their day-to-day lives. So, inflation, cost of living, immigration, these sorts of issues. And they think... And I understand why people think that, but they wrongly think that this doesn't affect them. But actually, the fact that we have rogue states, and it's not just China, spying on us, sending information back there to undermine our security and our way of life is a massive problem for people.
Yeah.
And I wonder, even though I think Badenoch did well in the Commons yesterday, if she should have gone on cost of living, with inflation now up again, unemployment up for the 12th month in a row, and we see... But now we're going to have the highest taxes in the G7 next year.
Let's talk about how we've got time to talk about Reeves and what she's actually saying now.
Well, she tells the Guardian we should stop bleating. Stop bleating.
She also says we're doing incredibly well. She's gone to Washington and said, well, the economy's doing really well. I mean, it's just stupidity. We're not doing really well. She's all but crushed it.
Well, the growth figures today were better than expected. So I accept that it's only 0.3%.
Let the cat out the bag. He said stagnation. We are stagnating. He said
We've been stagnating since 2008.
But Reeves is blaming Brexit. I mean, Brexit, for goodness sake.
Brexit has had an impact.
And do you know she blamed Thatcher's miners' strike as well?
Well,
how long ago was that?
I think our economic...
1984.
Our economic problems...
41 years ago.
Yes.
Were seeded 30 or even 40 years ago. And, of course, different governments make good and bad decisions, but... Crucially, we haven't had a balanced budget since 2000. We haven't had a balanced budget of trade since 1997. These problems have taken a long... the chickens have taken a long time to come home to roost, but now that is happening.
Well, I think we had a pretty strong economy from the mid-90s until about 2008, right? So we have in recent-ish
our
memory...
manufacturing was dropping and dropping and dropping then, which made us more and more dependent on countries like China. But yes, it was...
I understand that, but it's easy to say that now when the economy is not doing so well. But when the service industry was absolutely booming and we were doing fantastically well in the noughties, nobody was saying that, right? So I think that the problem...
We had a good economy before Labour took over.
The problem is we're spending... That's not true. That's not... Come on, Carol. The economy under the Tories they got out 100% at the right time. It was... Brexit, you can't just blame Brexit, but Brexit has not helped. We all know that Brexit hasn't helped.
Inflation was down to 2%. What is it now?
You're going to have to continue this conversation after the headlines, but we'll carry it on, because here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Sanchez.
Thank you very much. The top stories this morning from the GB Newsroom. The Prime Minister has released details of the China spy scandal after being accused of staging a cover-up. In 3 witness statements, details reveal the civil servant who gave evidence during the trial admitted the UK was committed to a positive relationship with China despite being quizzed about the threat it posed. The UK economy grew slightly in August, helped by an increase in manufacturing output, according to the latest figures. The economy expanded by 0.1%, according to the ONS, after contracting by 0.1% in July. Now, breaking news this hour, 3 men, an Iranian and 2 Egyptians, have been charged with raping a woman on Brighton Beach. Police were called to the Lower Esplanade around 5 a.m. on the 4th of October after reports a woman in her 30s had been attacked. And according to a provisional cause of death given at the opening of his inquest, former boxing champion Ricky Hatton took his own life. Those are the latest headlines for now. More in half an hour.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Well, coming up, do you remember when Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer said this?
I do. Let me be really clear about it. Firstly, we have made a commitment to do whatever we can to stop people arriving illegally in the United Kingdom. One of the issues is the ability people have to work illegally in our economy. We have to do something about that.
What impact will this have on people who don't own smartphones? This is Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Morning, welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We are going to see a change in the weather through the weekend, but for today it's kind of more of the same. Another largely cloudy, mostly dry day with light winds. I say mostly dry, there are a few light showers around, particularly over northern Scotland and East Anglia in the southeast of England, seeing a bit of a dank and drizzly start in places too. There are also some breaks in the clouds, so some places waking up to a little bit of sunshine, and any morning mist and fog in place will tend to clear away fairly rapidly through the morning, and with a bit of brightness we could reach 15-16 degrees. Most places though staying quite cloudy with temperatures about 12 or 13 degrees. Not a great deal of change as we go through this evening. Still 1 or 2 showers over the Northern Isles of Scotland, and still perhaps 1 or 2 showers just coming in along the south coast of England. But generally here dry, perhaps some breaks in the cloud, particularly to the west of hills, so parts of southwest England, West Wales, seeing a little bit of sunshine. Staying fairly cloudy for Northern Ireland and most of Scotland, but again here, just like the past few days, parts of central Scotland seeing some sunshine, but a few of those showers keeping going over northern Scotland, and will keep things a little damp across northernmost parts of the mainland through the night too. And we'll continue to see 1 or 2 of those showers getting into parts of Kent, perhaps just drifting through the channel into parts of East Devon as well. We could see a few showers. Otherwise, mostly dry nights. We'll keep a lot of clouds, and that'll keep the temperatures up to between about 7 to 10 Celsius, maybe dipping a little lower in some rural spots, particularly if we have any breaks in the cloud. But again, tomorrow, breaks in the cloud, hard to find for most. Another fairly drab day, still some light showers across the far north of Scotland and at times along the south coast of England. Southwest Wales may again see some breaks in the cloud, as could parts of western Scotland, and a bit of sunshine. But generally dry and cloudy will again be the theme on Friday, but it is going to change as we head into the weekend.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good morning. This is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. The M8 eastbound at Junction 11 experiences restrictions due to a broken down vehicle, so please proceed with caution. Meanwhile, the M48 imposes a 7.5-ton weight limit on heavy vehicles, affecting commercial traffic. In Redcar in Cleveland, a crash has led to the closure of a lane on the A174 eastbound. In Southampton, a collision has partially closed a lane on the M1 southbound. Additionally, Great Western Railway is facing disruptions on its services between Reading and Newbury, causing delays. Northern is operating replacement bus services between Corkicle and Whitehaven, impacting commuter schedules. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
It's 10:37. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Time for our Great British Giveaway. Here's all the details for your chance to make it all yours.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Or Labour.
Well, in just 7 days' time, the people of Caerphilly in South Wales will go to the polls to vote for their next representative in the Senedd.
And there's a poll showing Labour, who it's been a Labour stronghold for years, are in 3rd place.
Well, all to play for, our national reporter Jack Carson went out to speak to locals on what issues they're concerned about.
Its 750-year-old castle watches over this area, steeped in history. Now the people here in Caerphilly have a decision to make. A by-election to elect a new member of the Senedd has been called after the sudden death of former Labour member Hefin David. It's a town proud of its industrial past, and its people. A statue honours one of its most famous sons, Tommy Cooper. But in this election, which candidate will be able to pull the rabbit out of the hat? From local issues to those of national debate, residents here are divided on what their next representative should focus on.
Budget funding or some other issues have cropped up and the funding is no longer there. But, I mean, Caerphilly was promised, well, could do with a bypass years ago, but there isn't. There's one road in and one road out, and once that gets snarled up, everything grinds to a halt.
I believe in independence for Wales. England don't give a monkey's about us, they take us for granted.
Well, for them to be honest with what they're going to deliver, for a start. More help with the community, policing, put some money back in what the taxpayers are paying.
Even though this is an election to the Welsh Parliament, on this high street, the politics of Westminster is never far away.
A person who enters from any offshore without any legal documentation is actually breaking the law instantly. Therefore, their illegal status demands that person should not be allowed in this country. What has changed?
It is an issue, really, because you think, well, when's it going to stop? People can't get doctor's appointments and dentists and this, that and the other. We don't have the infrastructure, really, for, to take any more in, really.
They're here to help. They're here to benefit ourselves. If I wanted a job and if I had a job out here and I couldn't get the money, I'd move. Exactly like these immigrants come in here. They get a better standard of living here. You can't blame them.
The candidates in this election have just one more week to convince people here they're the best to represent them before they're catapulted into the Senedd. Jack Carson, GB News, Caerphilly.
The full list of candidates for the Caerphilly by-election are as follows. Conservatives, Gareth Potter. Green Party, Gareth Hughes. What's that one? Gwlad?
How's your Welsh?
Forgive my Welsh. Forgive me if you're
Welsh. It doesn't sound very Welsh.
It's spelled GWLAD. Anthony Cook.
Labour, Richard Tunnicliffe. Plaid Cymru, Lindsay Whittle. Reform UK, another Welsh name, Leah Powell.
UKIP, Roger Quillam.
Welsh Liberal Democrats, Stephen Aitchler. I don't think we did a very good job there.
So forgive our Welsh pronunciation.
Apologies to everybody in Wales.
Yeah. Now, an urgent question has been raised in the Commons about the collapse of the China spy case. We'll keep you up to date on this in the Commons when we get a bit more. Yes,
we're just watching MPs rise to their feet, asking why those 2 alleged Chinese spies were not prosecuted, despite all the evidence that the CPS raised against him. And actually, one of those alleged spies, Christopher Cash, has been reported in the papers today, complaining that he is undergoing trial by media and has not had chance to have a proper trial in a court of law, which I think is a fair point.
Come on GB News and tell us all about it. Tell them why it's innocent. We welcome you if you're watching, or your representatives watching. Come and talk to us. We'd be more than happy.
Well, coming up next, he's 15 years old, stands at 6'3", weighs 19 stone and eats 6,000 calories a day. Nicholas Tarasenko is training in Japan to take over the sumo wrestling world. His dad will join us in the studio in just a moment.
But first, if you want some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Some showers heading over the Canaries over the next few days. We've seen some torrential downpours across parts of Spain and Italy recently. Things turning drier here, however. Plenty of sunshine for Spain and Portugal on Friday, and the sunshine returning to much of Italy. Still a few showers across the far south. The wet weather, though, is moving into Croatia and mainland Greece, although most of the Greek islands further east will be dry and sunny. And we'll see the sunshine returning to Dubrovnik through the weekend. Meanwhile, further showers likely in Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. Only on GB News.
Welcome back. It's 11:15. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News.
Well, he's 15, 6'3". How much do you think he weighs? 19 stone. Not your typical lad from Hull.
No, Nicholas Tarasenko is eating 6,000 calories a day, lots of chicken, as he wants to take on the world of sumo.
He's already won gold abroad, is training in Japan to hone his sumo skills. Meanwhile, at the London's Royal Albert Hall, there's a huge sumo tournament taking place. Of course, Albert Hall being normally the home of classical music.
Indeed, a bit of a change of scene. Well, we're joined now by sumo wrestling coach and the father of Nicholas Tarasenko, George Silkin. Good morning, George. Thank you so much
Nice to meet
for
you.
joining us. Now, I've got to ask, how did your son get into sumo wrestling?
By accident. Yeah, we was visiting grandma in Estonia. That's where I'm from.
Yeah.
And then I just called Estonian sumo wrestler because he's known through the judo scene, which I was part of, and my dad as well. So I called him, said, "Oh, what you doing? We want to hang out," because I'm a big sumo fan. He said, "Oh no, I have this tournament, very busy." I said, "Well, what tournament? It's for children, nothing interesting." So, well, I have children. Can any of them take part? How old are they? 14 and 13. Oh no, 13 is too young. 14 can go, and it was under 18 competition, and Nicholas won gold.
Did he really?
Yeah, first time ever.
Extraordinary. So he's a natural.
Well, yeah, he was doing judo and rugby, so it's a lot of transferable skills there.
But But you're a sumo coach.
Well, you know what I'm saying, because we don't have anyone better.
Right.
You know, the sumo is not very popular. There is better sumo coaches than me, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
But I'm the only one available there and then. Otherwise, we have to travel, and we did.
Right.
To Scotland to see Scott Finley, who is the president of British Sumo.
But you're not worried that your lad is very heavy for such a young boy? He's carrying a lot of weight.
Have you seen the pictures? He looks skinny.
That doesn't look skinny to me.
That's not him, I don't.
No.
Oh, no, that's not him. Yeah.
But
he does that as well.
He does that?
Yeah. Easily.
I would love to be able to eat 6,000 calories a day. What kind of foods does he eat?
During the tournament, they eat only chicken out of meats. Well, of course, all other rice and noodles and stuff. But they eat chankonabe, and the only meat allowed during the tournament is chicken.
Why is that?
Because they have superstitions, you know, like four-legged animals make you fall over on your fours.
Oh, I see.
And the chicken stays on two legs, upright, so that's the sign of victory in sumo. So, and upright animals, okay. Four-legged animals, no good.
But we think of sumo wrestlers, we think Japanese. We don't think a British teenager.
Yeah, he was like only second in the whole history of sumo from Britain.
Really?
If you include Hong Kong, then it's third.
Right.
But you know.
Wow.
Why is he a natural? What makes him a good sumo wrestler?
Well, the specialists over there, they saw him and they said, "We want him."
Right.
Yeah, we went like just for a trip to Japan to see actual sumo tournament in Kokugikan. That's the main stadium.
Mm.
And when we went to an after party, they was like, "How old is he?" You know.
And what are the core skills? Obviously, you need to be strong and heavy, at least as heavy as your opponent. But what are the key skills involved in the actual wrestling match?
Well, how do I put it? The skills, there is two basic styles, like the where you grab the belt and do the throw, or where you push somebody out. And to be honest, combine them together and you get perfect sumo wrestler. Because it's very hard to get on top just following one technique. You cannot push your way out all the time. You cannot throw your way out all the time. You need to be like the best of both.
So there's quite a lot of skill.
Yeah, well, if you have long limbs, you maybe go for pushing style. If you short, and fast, you maybe go for throwing style. It depends.
And if people are listening on the radio, we're watching on the screen. I mean, he's quite small compared to some of his opponents.
Well, this guy is the biggest. Sumo wrestler, amateur sumo wrestler in Europe. 235 kilograms. Of course, he looks small next to him.
230.
Yeah, that was the video from Scottish Sumo Championship.
And how did he do in that?
Silver.
Very good. And will he go professional at some point? And earn lots of money and become a multi-millionaire? Glamorous TV star in Japan?
Maybe, we hope, but you know what I'm saying? Never say never, but also, it's a hard work. And I tell you what, if anyone dedicate enough, effort, they can be whatever they want. It's just,
He trains every day, presumably. He's training every day?
His brother, on another hand, is more talented, but he doesn't train enough.
Right.
Yeah. His younger brother. His younger brother, I honestly can tell that he's more talented, but he's not as dedicated.
Now,
he plays it. Right. It's all the game for him, but he still managed to win.
And how old is your other son?
14.
14, okay, so they're quite close in age.
Yeah, and he placed recently in European Championship, Sumo Championship, 5th in open weight. That's with all the big boys.
Wow.
Who might be over 100 kilo.
Yeah.
He was the smallest, 75 kilo.
Now, our producer is telling me to ask you how you think Andrew would get on in the sumo wrestling. Would you be better off reporting on it?
That'd be very good.
When he was younger, he should have gone for something quick, like, grab a leg probably.
Yes.
Right.
And then that disarmed your opponent before they had chance.
Yeah, and when you grab in a leg, it's better to pull sideways rather than up.
I remember this.
Do you know what? I don't think I'm really cut out for sumo.
But isn't it fantastic how many people are interested?
There is
tickets at the Albert Hall. Maybe it could.
There is girls sumo as well.
Not my thing.
Norwegians are very good at it, and Ukrainians.
Taking a little bit far. Well, George Zilkin, thank you so much.
Good luck to your son, and enjoy the tournament at the Royal Albert Hall.
And don't go away, because we're joined by a Labour MP who is not in favour of digital ID. This is Britain's Newsroom.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We are going to see a change in the weather through the weekend, but for today it's kind of more of the same. Another largely cloudy, mostly dry day with light winds. I say mostly dry, there are a few light showers around, particularly over northern Scotland and East Anglia in the southeast of England, seeing a bit of a dank and drizzly start in places too. There are also some breaks in the clouds, so some places waking up to a little bit of sunshine, and any morning mist and fog in place will tend to clear away fairly rapidly through the morning. And with a bit of brightness, we could reach 15, 16 degrees. Most places, though, staying quite cloudy with temperatures about 12 or 13 degrees. Not a great deal of change as we go through this evening. Still one or two showers over the Northern Isles of Scotland, and still perhaps one or two showers just coming in along the south coast of England. But generally here dry. Perhaps some breaks in the cloud, particularly to the west of hills, so parts of southwest England, West Wales, seeing a little bit of sunshine. Staying fairly cloudy for Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. But again here, just like the past few days, parts of central Scotland seeing some sunshine, but a few of those showers keeping going over northern Scotland, and will keep things a little damp across northernmost parts of the mainland through the night too. And we'll continue to see one or two of those showers getting into parts of Kent, perhaps just drifting through the channel into parts of East Devon as well. We could see a few showers. Otherwise, mostly dry nights. We'll keep a lot of clouds, and that'll keep the temperatures up to between about 7 to 10 Celsius, maybe dipping a little lower in some rural spots, particularly particularly if we have any breaks in the cloud. But again, tomorrow, breaks in the cloud, hard to find for most. Another fairly drab day. Still some light showers across the far north of Scotland and at times along the south coast of England. Southwest Wales may again see some breaks in the cloud, as could parts of western Scotland, and a bit of sunshine. But generally dry and cloudy will again be the theme on Friday, but it is going to change as we head into the weekend.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though. I'm so surprised. I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
It's 11 o'clock on Thursday, the 16th of October, live across the UK, Britain's Newsroom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Cates.
Now, stop bleating, says the Chancellor to those who are critical of her.
Of course, we're looking at further measures on tax and spending to make sure that the public finances always add up.
Well, as if you didn't know it, taxes in Britain are rising faster than any other G7 country. Read the room, Rachel Reeves.
And the China spy crisis rumbles on. Political strategist Dominic Cummings claims China stole state secrets in a security breach that was covered up by the government, as an urgent question is being discussed right now in the House of Commons.
There's a BBC for each of us, funded by all of us. This is our BBC.
Well, another bad day for the Beeb, which has been branded biased in favour of the government by 38% of their viewers, who also want the programmes to be less diverse.
And there's a warning that millions of pensioners risk becoming second-class citizens under the government's digital ID scheme, as many of them don't have a smartphone. The Technology Secretary Liz Kendall doesn't agree.
In building our new system, we will learn from the experiences of other countries, some of whom have had digital ID for over 20 years. Many show us just how transformative this can be.
I still have this hunch it's never going to happen. There's no political support that I can sense on the government benches. The Tories don't seem to appear, and nobody can tell me why we need it.
Exactly. And the House of Lords will tear it apart.
They will.
Because it wasn't in the manifesto, they don't have any sort of duty to pass the legislation. I can see this taking the whole of the rest of the Parliament to pass, and it won't be worth it.
And there are more important things for this government to get to grips with: the state of our schools, the state of our potholes, for God's sake. These are bread and butter issues that people really care about.
What will be interesting is if they do manage to make some progress on illegal immigration, if they do manage to stop the boats, will they then still be arguing for digital ID, or will they admit that really it's not about immigration?
No, it's nothing to do with immigration. How does digital ID cards stop people coming across the channel in small boats, in which they're coming in record numbers, of course? What do you think? Send your views, post your comments by visiting
gbnews.com/your say. But first, here's the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Miriam, thank you very much. The top stories. The Prime Minister has released details of the China spy scandal after being accused of staging a cover-up. In 3 witness statements, details reveal the civil servant who gave evidence during the trial admitted the UK was committed to a positive partnership with China, despite being quizzed about the threat it posed. Sensitive material on the Conservative leadership race was also supposedly leaked. The accused spies, Mr Cash and Mr Berry, both denied any wrongdoing after the case collapsed last month. Shadow Chancellor Mel Stride spoke to GB News.
National Security Advisor, you would think, would be across something as significant as this, but the suggestion is that it was all weighted or focused on his deputy, a civil servant, and I think most people would say that just sounds totally incredulous. Look, it does feel a bit like a cover-up. We've had a Prime Minister that just 48 hours ago was telling us that the evidence that's now been released could not be released, and yet changed his position yesterday on Prime Minister's questions. What we are saying is let's get to the bottom of exactly what happened. Let's have that information. Let's have the correspondence, the memos, etc., around this activity so that we can make a proper assessment.
Rachel Reeves says higher taxes on the UK's wealthy will form part of next month's budget, as she shrugged off the scaremongering and bleating of her critics and stressed her determination to repair the public finances. Speaking in Washington, where she's attending the annual meetings of the International Monetary Fund, the Chancellor told The Guardian there won't be a return to austerity, and she hinted at tax increases for the most well-off. Health Minister Stephen Kinnock told GB News this morning that the UK economy continues to grow because of the decisions the Chancellor has made.
The UK was the highest growing economy in the G7 in the first 6 months of this year. We've had 5 interest rates cut. We've seen significant growth in investment thanks to the changes to the borrowing rules that were made. We've seen wages going up, and as a result of the investment that we've been able to do in our NHS thanks to the decisions that the Chancellor made, we've seen 5 million additional appointments, 2,000 GPs on the front line, the best settlement for pharmacy in many, many years. Just some examples of how we're rebuilding our public services thanks to the decisions that the Chancellor made at the last budget.
The UK economy grew slightly in August, helped by an increase in manufacturing output, according to the latest official figures. The economy expanded by 0.1%, the Office for National Statistics said, after contracting by 0.1% in July. The government has made boosting the economy a key priority, and pressure is mounting ahead of the budget next month, but economists expect growth to remain sluggish over the next few months. According to a provisional cause of death given at the opening of his inquest, former boxing champion Ricky Hatton took his own life. The 46-year-old was discovered unresponsive by his manager on the morning of Sunday, September the 14th, at his house in Hyde in Greater Manchester, a court's been told. The details were given during a brief 10-minute hearing as the inquest into the death of the former boxer was opened and adjourned until March next year. His death has sparked a debate over whether enough is done to help sporting stars after retirement. 3 men have been charged with raping a woman on Brighton Beach. Police were called to the Lower Esplanade around 5 a.m. on the 4th of October after reports a woman in her 30s had been attacked. The force added the 3 men, 25-year-old Abdullah Ahmadi, an Iranian national from Crewe, along with Karin Al-Danasut, who's 20, and Ibrahim Al-Shafi, who's 25, both Egyptian nationals from Horsham, had been remanded in custody and were due to appear at Brighton Magistrates Court today. The late sex trafficking victim, Virginia Giuffre, wrote in her memoir that Prince Andrew was entitled and believed having sex with her was his birthright. In the book Nobody's Girl, Miss Giuffre details her alleged sexual encounters with the Duke of York when she was 17, which have been previously reported. Prince Andrew has always denied the allegations. She also describes her manipulation by Jeffrey Epstein, who took his own life while awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges, and Ghislaine Maxwell, who was jailed for recruiting young girls for Epstein. In extracts reported in The Guardian and The Times, Virginia Giuffre says she was introduced to Andrew in March of 2001 while staying at Maxwell's house near Hyde Park in London. Johnson & Johnson is facing legal action from thousands of people in the UK who are accusing the global healthcare giant of knowingly selling talcum powder contaminated with asbestos. More than 3,000 people allege they or a family member developed forms of ovarian cancer from using Johnson's baby powder between 1965 and 2023. A lawsuit has been filed by KP Law at the High Court in London seeking damages against J&J and Kenvue UK. The lawsuit alleges J&J concealed the risk to the public for decades. Kenvue said in a statement that J&J baby powder did not contain asbestos and does not cause cancer. And just before I go, some breaking news in the last few minutes from that China spy case, that MPs will hold a formal inquiry to discuss the China spying case and the issues that have arisen from it. Matt Weston telling the Commons just a short moment ago that the Joint Committee on the National Security Strategy has decided to investigate the case. Those are the latest headlines. For now, more in half an hour.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
Here's a quick snapshot of the markets. The pound buying you $1.3441 and €1.1528. The price of gold is £3,147.99 per ounce. The FTSE 100 is at 9,414 points.
Cheers Britannia Wine Club proudly sponsors the GBNews Financial Report.
But welcome back to Britain's Newsroom, live across the UK and GB News with Andrew and Miriam. That's quite important breaking news about China.
Yes.
That very sound, it's a joint committee of the House of Commons and House of Lords, as I understand it, is going to now look into why that case against 2 men accused of spying for China collapsed before it got to court, and whether was there any interference by the government?
Well, the truth will be revealed, and we will bring you the latest on that throughout the programme. Of course, you've been getting in touch on gbnews.com/your say. We've got a wide range of issues commented on today. Gary says this is about the sumo wrestling that we had just before 11 o'clock. I remember the last time sumo came to the UK, time flies, doesn't seem like 30 years ago. And then lots on China. Roger says whether it's China or the USA, the UK should be more self-sufficient. British Bulldog says the combination of the threat of China and ID cards makes me very nervous. Good point. And on the grooming gangs inquiry, Christabel says, thank goodness for Charlie Peters, professional, persistent and very articulate, just what it is needed to keep the issue alive. And you do wonder if it hadn't been for that, whether or not the government would have quietly dropped it by now.
They'd have loved to quietly drop because a lot of the councils involved in what effectively was the cover-up, social workers and various people and police forces not getting involved, were controlled by the Labour Party.
Indeed, and it's crucial that it reports before the next general election.
Absolutely
so let's hope that this progress is real.
Some people are still in jobs who, frankly, shouldn't be.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on now to our next topic, because millions of pensioners risk becoming second-class citizens in their own country because of digital ID.
That's because, according to the leading campaign group Silver Voices, they say the Prime Minister's plan to prevent older people from being fully members of society because, of course, quite a lot of older people don't have a smartphone and don't want one. But why should they have to have one?
Absolutely. Well, joining us now is Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer. But before we ask you about digital IDs, what's your response to MPs pledging to hold this formal inquiry into the Chinese spy case, Graham?
Well, I think it's a good thing. I think under the last government and this government, we have been too soft with China. I was on the Foreign Affairs Select Committee in the last Parliament, and I became convinced that the Foreign Office, Foreign Department, were putting our economic interests, which are important, above our interests in security. And they basically, when they came to give evidence to the Select Committee, they said that. They said it was for the birds, trying to reduce our trade with China. I don't want to reduce our trade, but I want to make sure it's secure. The Chinese economy has grown because they've stolen intellectual property rights. They've not followed international trading laws, and they are subsidising their industry in a way that isn't allowed for those of us who do follow the rules. So I am very worried about our relationship with China.
Just before we move on to the ID cards, Graham, is there a dilemma here for government? Because, of course, they want to do more trade with China, but can ever national security be compromised in that pursuit of higher trade?
Well, I think it has been compromised, but it shouldn't be. And I think the drive to have more trade, which is understandable, that our security has been neglected, both short-term security in terms of spying on us and stealing things, and long-term security in as much as we have handed over control of the supply of many of our critical materials to China. They drive for so-called green energy. We are almost totally dependent on rare earths and other materials from China, and that's not good in any crisis.
Now, Graham, let's move on to digital ID cards. But of course, the issues are not unrelated, because one of the fears that people have about digital ID cards is that it would allow the government to treat its citizens a little like the way that the Chinese do, to implement a social credit system where people's access to services might depend on their recorded behaviour. You're not a fan of this digital ID card, are you?
I'm not. I'm agnostic when it comes to ID cards. When the Blair government was thinking of bringing them in, I was veering towards being against, because the cost was so high and there wasn't buy-in from the public. But in principle, we all carry, or nearly everybody carries around ID in our pockets. So I can't work up a lot of anger or enthusiasm for being against it. But this current proposal was not in Labour's manifesto. The details are unknown. There's not been any consultation, any white papers about it, and as you've just said, it depends on people having smartphones, not just old people, but other people. It depends on people being able to use smartphones. And even some people who have smartphones only use them as telephones. They don't really know how to use all the other facilities on it. So I'm not a fan, and I have veered to being against it, because we don't know what it means, and the public don't like the idea.
And Graham, do you think it will actually get through Parliament? Lots and lots of MPs have expressed concerns about this. It's rumoured that members of the Cabinet aren't happy. It wasn't in the manifesto, so there's no obligation on the House of Lords to put the legislation through. Might it just be quietly dropped?
My guess is that you're absolutely right, that unfortunately, the government have flown a number of kites over the last few months. This is one kite which I suspect will end up on the ground and will not be implemented by the time of the next election. And I suspect will not be in anybody's manifesto at the next election either.
I didn't understand either, Graham, how this was going to stop illegal migration and how it was going to stop people working illegally in the economy. I just don't see how it's going to work.
By definition, if they're working illegally, they're not going to hand over their ID card, should they have one. I was talking to a friend of mine who lives in Belgium, an ex-MEP, a British MEP, and he said he's got an ID card. He's been asked for once in the time he's lived in Belgium. He said, but there is a huge amount of illegal immigration and illegal working in Belgium where they have an ID card. So there is no evidence that this would have any impact on people who've risked crossing the channel to come here, who badly want to be here for a whole series of different reasons. I think they'd keep on coming and join the black economy.
Now, Graham, when the last government introduced voter ID for elections, the Labour Party and the Liberal Democrats opposed it on the basis that it would exclude certain people from society who didn't have access to photo ID. How has the Labour Party made such a shift, arguing in favour of digital ID, having been against voter ID?
It's a good question, which I don't think I can answer. I mean, it is a significant change of philosophy and perspective on that. I mean, if I wanted to give a smart answer, I'd say, well, photo ID seems to have affected voter turnout by about 0.2% at most. So there is some evidence that the Labour Party and the Liberal Party were wrong in their opposition. But I don't think that's it. I think the government is moving from one new smart idea, one new fashionable idea to another, because we're not doing as well as I would want us to do.
When's that going to change, Graham?
I wish I knew that. I'm hoping that we will have a serious, deep debate about the economy and where the government is going around the budget, because we are surely going to have to make some very tough decisions. If we don't have that debate where we bottom some of the principles that we're operating on, and we keep looking for excuses, and some of them are excuses or diversions, then it's not going to end. I mean, as you know, I was pro-Brexit, and I think it is rather pathetic 5 years after we left the European Union, when we knew we'd left the European Union at the time of the election, now to say our economic woes down to Brexit. So I'm hoping we can have a really serious debate and discussion around the budget.
Let's hope so. All right, Graham, lovely to talk to you. That's Graham Stringer. He's the Labour MP for Blackley and South Middleton. Thanks for joining us.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Now, time for the Great British Giveaway. Here's how you can make it all yours.
You're not going to want to miss our greatest Great British Giveaway so far. You could bank an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. And if that wasn't enough, you'll also get to drive away in this brand new motorhome. With thanks to Marquis Leisure, this brand new 2025 Benimar Primero could be yours. It comes with all the mod cons you'd expect from a vehicle worth over £74,000 and comfortably sleeps 4 people. This prize package is worth over £104,000. And remember, if you can dream it, you can drive it away. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrants must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. The winner will be contacted live on GB News, week commencing 10th November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Well, coming up next, Margaret Thatcher was always up for a verbal battle.
The honourable member is saying is that he would rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have.
Well, one university has compared the Iron Lady, 100th anniversary of her birth this week, to Adolf Hitler and Vladimir Putin. How offensive is that? More on that next. This is Britain's Newsroom. Oh, she would laugh it off, actually. Britain's favourite morning show, of course, on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5. You got me. You got me good there.
Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand.
Yeah.
Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight.
On the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
And how can a country go from being led by William Wallace Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m. only on GB News.
Welcome back. 24 minutes past 11. You're watching Britain's Newsroom, live across the United Kingdom with Andrew Pearce and Miriam Kate.
We've got the panel back, which is Carol Malone and Andy Williams. Now, you know, Malone, I'm a huge fan of Mrs Thatcher.
I mean, should we tell the people that
You
you've
could
got
tell
a
them.
life-size effigy of her in your living room?
I do. No, it's in the it's in my study.
It's a cardboard cutout, but...
Yeah, it's a cardboard cutout, and I have...
Not a full wax
I have
life-size
photographs of me
model.
with her letters from her. I adored her.
You were very close to her
I
in
was.
her life.
I
You
was.
used to have lunch with her quite
I
a
did.
lot. Yeah, so this story is going to really upset you. And this is the University of Leicester, who are comparing Margaret to Hitler, to Osama bin Laden.
Unbelievable.
To Elon Musk, well, you know, whatever. And also, who else was it? Vladimir Putin. So basically, according to this lecturer, and he's a guy called Kurt Lewin.
Your microphone is not working. So somebody's going to come and sort it out. So while you're...
I can sort it out.
But Malone was just making the point they'd been compared to Osama bin Laden.
Exactly. But isn't this the case now, that anybody who's right-wing is somehow associated with dictators? But the thing is, you can have politics on the left or right that is either authoritarian or democratic. And there are right-wing authoritarian states, there are left-wing authoritarian states, but you can be a Democrat and be on the right or the left. And people... Solid University would understand that.
So you're an old lefty, Andy. Do you think Mrs Thatcher was a terrible dictator?
No, I don't think she was a terrible dictator. She's not my political cup of tea, and I think there are a number of legitimate criticisms you can make of her time in office, but she was, on her own terms, clearly a great Prime Minister in the sense that she had a vision which she executed extremely
and she was
well.
a leader.
And she was a leader, and she was respected on the world stage. There was a poll the other day to mark her 100th birthday, asking British people who was the best Prime Minister of the last 50 years, and she won that poll by a mile, with Blair second, who would have been number one for me, obviously.
But what's worrying, don't you think, Andy, is that, these are supposed to be lecturers, these are supposed to be academics, intellects who are teaching and, well, not teaching, but they're brainwashing our kids. And, and the damage that it can do, they're brainwashing with these hateful ideologies. And if you look here, most of the people, well, all of the people that this lecturer has compared Maggie to are all right-wing, obviously. But, this is why you've got this, like this kid at Oxford, this young lad who's just been suspended in Oxford, a guy called Samuel Williams, who was shouting, the other day, shouting for people to kill Jews, put Zios in the ground.
Disgusting. That's our premier university, the best university in the world, according to recent survey.
But this is happening to kids at universities. They're being indoctrinated at university.
But to compare Mrs Thatcher to Hitler, who... The author of the solution, the final solution, 6 million Jews were murdered.
Yes.
Well, hang on. I mean, I would say I'm not defending this at all. But what this lecture was about leadership styles, right? So it wasn't saying Thatcher is as bad as Hitler.
But she didn't lead like Hitler.
No, and I don't think she did either. But I'm just making the point that it's a little bit more nuanced in the way we're talking about it.
But 3 elections democratically. Osama bin Laden never won an election.
Not as far as I'm aware. But I do think there is an important point, which is about these labels that people throw around. People throw fascist around
all the time. Nazi, fascist.
And actually, the thing that really bothers me about that is when you actually see a fascist or a racist, that undermines your ability to call out, to call a spade when there is somebody who fits that description.
You're right. You could be. And she was one of our greatest ever leaders, whether you're Labour or Tory. I even remember in my little mining village in the northeast, it was Labour through and through to its heart. And I remember when the lights were out for 3 months and we didn't have any heating and whatever. My whole village, mostly the village, voted for Thatcher that year because, even my father, who had never voted Tory in his life, he said, "Carol, she's a leader." Yeah. He said, "I want the lights back on." And so that to me is really important because she was one of our greatest leaders, made look even greater when you compare her to the wet wife we now have as a Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. One of the weakest leaders I have.
Andy, you're supposed to rush in to defend the wet wife.
Well, I do think that's unfair, but clearly he doesn't
How
have
is
the
it
same.
unfair?
Well, clearly Keir
wrong?
Starmer doesn't have the same leadership qualities as Margaret
He has
Thatcher.
none.
But she's a one. I do think he has some because I think he has integrity, and I think
he does.
I think he does. I really do. I do think he has integrity, and I think he's a good person who has a. Gordon Brown used to talk about having a moral compass, and I think Keir Starmer really does actually, and I think that's an underrated quality.
An interesting piece of this saying that soon he will just be seen as a serial liar.
He is, exactly. And where was the integrity in him trying to claim some kind of glory for the peace deal?
He wasn't trying to claim...
Yes, he was.
Well, firstly, it was Bridget Phillipson who made those...
he also said that what he had done in recognising Palestine helped the peace talks.
Well, there is a big piece in the New Statesman today, actually, outlining all the British negotiators that were involved behind the scene, including Jonathan Powell, who was in Egypt for all the time.
Not Keir
was being slated here. So I think we don't know actually, but some British people were certainly involved in.
I think we did play a role, and I think we've played a. He's taken a real. Well, it was Donald Trump's deal, and just without going into the weeds of this, wonderful to see the hostages returned and all of that. But this is being talked about as if it's kind of the end of the story.
No, it's not.
This is not a detail. This is not a deal. This is a deal to take one step forward.
But Trump didn't
say
that. Even Trump didn't say that. He said it was the first step towards peace. He made that clear, and we can see what's happening now already. And it's it's clear that Hamas don't want peace.
We've got time quickly to talk about Rachel Reeves. Would you like to talk about Rachel Reeves?
I would like to talk about it. There's a great piece.
Fleeting, apparently.
There's a great piece in your newspaper today by Dan Hannan, and he's just saying that the woman is delusional. You know, she's going to Washington saying how brilliantly this country is doing, when it's not. We've lost 276,000 jobs since her last budget. Inflation has rocketed. Unemployment has gone up to 4.9%. We have a debt of 3 trillion quid. The black hole that she says was 20 billion is now 50 billion, thanks to her. So how is that anyone's fault except hers?
It's not. I mean, if you look at the main reason for that is that bond yields have gone through the roof, and that has happened everywhere. That is not a UK-specific problem.
Do you remember what they said about Liz Truss when the bond yields went through the roof?
Yeah, but that was
historic borrowing that is tied to inflation, and now inflation's gone up. We are in trouble.
And inflation's gone up on her watch.
Inflation has gone up, and I think they've made. I think Rachel Reeves made real mistakes, not least the national insurance rise.
Yeah.
What I'm really concerned.
Inflation.
Sorry.
Which added to inflation.
Which added to inflation and caused jobs to go because employers were like, well, it's actually too expensive to hire. But the one thing I'd say that's really frustrating, I was at the CBI conference last November, and she said we won't be coming back for more tax rises.
Yes, she did.
I remember hearing it and thinking. Yeah. Did she really just say that? And I messaged a few people immediately and said she's going to regret saying that. And here we are again. And what the government needs to understand, because she's talking today about how we're going to have to tax the wealthy and they need to, as you said, stop bleating. The government needs to understand that Britain is competing for entrepreneurs and investors with the UAE, with Italy and Portugal, who now have better non-dom regimes than we do, with the United States, whose economy is going great guns. And they... with the non-dom stuff, Labour made a bet that people wouldn't leave Britain.
And they have.
And I know they have.
And Andy, more importantly, the companies like GlaxoSmithKline and AstraZeneca, they were going to invest billions in this country. They've now taken the money to America. They don't trust Britain under her.
The latest billionaire, City AM revealed today, Richard Desmond has moved out of Britain. Very rich man, and last week it was the boss of Rebel.
What was the
Britain's richest man?
Yeah, because he knows that if he sells, if they IPO, which they're probably going to in the next few years, and he makes billions and billions of dollars, he's going to pay no tax if he goes there. Whereas here, he'd be absolutely.
No, she's chased the money away.
Andy, that's all we've got time for. Thank you so much. See you again very shortly. Well, on that Thatcher story, GBNews has contacted Leicester for a comment. We'll update you when we hear back.
I don't think we will hear back, frankly. But there we are. Here's your 60-second news update with Tatiana Satchers.
A spying case and the issues that have arisen from it. The decision comes after the Prime Minister has released details of the China spy scandal after being accused of staging a cover-up. In 3 witness statements, details reveal the civil servant who gave evidence during the trial admitted the UK was committed to a positive relationship with China despite being quizzed about the threat it posed. The UK economy grew slightly in August, helped by an increase in manufacturing output, according to the latest official figures. The economy expanded by 0.1%, the ONS said, after contracting by 0.1% in July. 3 men, an Iranian and 2 Egyptians, have been charged with raping a woman on Brighton Beach. Police were called to the lower Esplanade around 5 a.m. on the 4th of October after reports a woman in her 30s had been attacked. According to a provisional cause of death given at the opening of his inquest, former boxing champion Ricky Hatton took his own life. Those are the latest headlines for now. More news at the top of the hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome back. Coming up at noon, we've got Good Afternoon Britain with Tom and Dawn. They're here in the studio. What's coming up in the show?
Astonishing revelations in Parliament yesterday when the leaders or senior figures from lots of energy companies sat in front of the Energy Committee and said what these MPs didn't want to hear. They said that even if gas prices fall by half, bills will still go up. Why? Because the main cost that's pushing bills up isn't the price of gas. It's the price of the subsidies, it's the green taxes, it's all of those things that are being put on our bills. And for once, the energy companies are admitting it.
Yeah. That's amazing.
You've also got an exclusive interview with Kemi Badenoch, who's on the show. That's around about 12:30, so you don't want to miss that one. So lots to talk to Kemi about.
She had a good Prime Minister's questions yesterday, I thought.
Yes, we were talking to her about that.
I mean, I'm not sure that China's cutting through with the great British public.
Well, we've got a bit of a challenge on this. Dawn has set me the challenge of explaining the China spy story in less than 1 minute.
I want to see this.
I'm
you're
going to
in
attempt
espionage
this.
corner with a board and a pointer.
I've got a whiteboard, so hopefully this will all go well.
I think it could go viral, maybe even to Beijing. Let's see.
We've also got knickers, by the way, just in case anyone's...
We are all wearing
An
knickers.
eclectic show. Sounds wonderful. That's coming up.
Quite unusual for Dawn to wear knickers, apparently.
Andrew Pierce. Anyway, coming up next.
BBC for each of us, funded by all of us. This is our BBC.
Yes, this is a story that 38% of BBC viewers believe the broadcaster is biased in favour of the government and they want less diversity on screen. Do you agree?
This is Britain's Newsroom, GB News.
Hello, very good day to you. This is your latest GB News weather update from the Met Office. Now it is going to be mostly dry through the rest of today, but also largely cloudy. Lots of grey sky around because we have high pressure across us, keeping the winds largely light, but it's also trapping some moisture, which is why there's so much cloud around, and for many that's not going anywhere particularly fast. That being said, there is some sunshine across central parts of Scotland in particular, also some sunny spells towards Shetland. Elsewhere, a largely cloudy theme this afternoon. Mostly dry though, just a few spots of rain towards the far southeast of England and also towards some northern parts of Scotland, Caithness, parts of Aberdeenshire, for example, as well. Where you're stuck under the cloud, a bit of a chilly, cool feel to things, but temperatures around average for the time of year, feeling warmer in those places where we get that sunshine breaking through. As we go through the end of the day, still some damp weather across some parts of northern and eastern Scotland, but most areas of Scotland actually dry and some late sunshine as well for a few places too. Cloudier though across many other parts across Northern Ireland, much of England and Wales, a largely grey end to the day and mostly dry, but still a few spots of rain towards some parts of East Anglia and towards coastal parts of Kent as well. As we go overnight, a few showery bursts across parts of northern and eastern Scotland still, maybe a few showers pushing into some North Sea coastal parts and also towards the southwest, but most places staying largely dry. The cloud breaking up a little bit, and so where we get that cloud breaking up and the clear skies and light winds, temperatures for some could drop close to or around freezing perhaps in some places, otherwise the cloud stopping temperatures from falling too low. And then for many tomorrow, a similar day, some brighter skies in a few places, particularly across some parts of northern England and even across parts of Wales, maybe some parts of the southwest of England. Whilst there will be a bit of rain here, there could also be some sunshine breaking through. Otherwise, again, another largely dry day, often quite cloudy and feeling a bit cool under that cloud as well. Bye-bye.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back. It's 11:40. You're watching Britain's Newsroom on GB News with Andrew Pierce and Miriam Cates.
Well, a poll of 870,000 people has revealed BBC viewers believe the broadcaster is ineffective at being independent from the government.
Well, 91% of respondents said their corporation should loosen its ties from the government of the day.
Is this a fair criticism? We're joined by former BBC executive editor and presenter Roger Bolton, a great friend of this programme. Roger, what do you make of this poll? Is it fair? Is it how you see the BBC?
Well, I should say that 43% of people said, of course, that the BBC is being effective about being independent. But it is worrying. I think there's a wider context. Trust in a whole range of institutions is diminishing, be it Parliament, broadcasters, elsewhere.
Yeah.
You can argue about the cause of that. I would argue that a significant element is social media, the rise of social media, where people are more distrustful of authority in any form and prefer to choose on the whole, the outlets or whatever that reflect their views. Now, if you therefore don't like the BBC, whatever, you tend to choose to watch people who reinforce that. So, but there is an issue. I mean, I think it's an issue of trust. I think there is an issue, and always has been an issue, about how independent the BBC is. It's got freedom under license. And it's given that license in two ways. One is a charter which actually allows it to operate. And the second is a license fee, which decides how much money it'll have to do that. And when both of those come up, how can I put this delicately? The BBC pays great attention to the views of the government of the day because it wants to survive. And there's always been this tension in the BBC between as it were, those who are charged with preserving the institution and securing its future, and the journalists who I believe are largely independent and trying to do their best. And periodically you get big rows. Governments lean on the BBC. Harold Wilson notoriously tried to fix it, put in his own chairman. Mrs. Thatcher put in a chairman to get rid of the Director General she didn't like. Boris Johnson, we know, put in his friend there. On the whole, something surprising happens, though, when they try and do that. The people they appoint actually look at the job and think, whoops, well, there is a case for public service broadcasting, and there is a case for independent journalism. And yeah, we've got problems, but actually there's a lot of good as well. So it ebbs and flows, but it is true that the BBC listens intently to what the government says. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it obeys what the government says. I don't think it has done. And the other final thing I'd say is that, BBC executive once said, when the country is divided, the BBC's on the rack. The BBC likes nothing better than consensus. Government says this, da, 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 da. When you get like in the Arab-Israeli conflict and so on, where the passions are so great on either side, each side only sees the case, as it were, that puts for them. So there are very difficult times. So BBC itself says it's an area that needs attention.
Yes. I think that's very interesting what you're saying about the problem when the country itself is polarised. And certainly in the political world, people on the right think that the BBC is biased to the left, but people on the left think the BBC is biased to the right. So perhaps they're walking just about the right line here.
Well, it's a nice thing to say. Of course, they could be both right, and the BBC could be wrong. When you go back, you go back to a guy called Tony Benn, who was leader of the left, absolutely convinced that the BBC was biased against him, and proposed, and it got through the Labour Party, that wasn't put in the government, a political supervisory board that would control the BBC. That was kicked out, fortunately. And you've had Tories, Mrs. Thatcher and others, who say, what are we going to do about the BBC? Are convinced about they've got to do things biased. Why do we need a state intervention? And you had people like Willie Whitelaw, brilliant man, much underrated, who, by the way, made sure Channel 4 happened, who believed in a range of views. So on the whole, the left has favoured the BBC because on the whole it thinks there's a role for state intervention. On the whole, the right has been opposed because it says, why do we need this? And in between the two, there's been an edgy relationship, as there should be. But those who say the BBC is entirely independent ignore the fact that when, as I say, when the charter comes up for renewal, when the licence fee comes up to be, please God, says the BBC increased, certain people in the BBC are rather more attentive to government.
And just finally, Roger, on the licence fee, it does feel to me like it's doomed, because fewer and fewer people are paying for the licence fee. And that is part of the reason they've announced cuts today in the current affairs output, because there's less money coming in.
It is. By the way, that's a very big mistake, because I think what we need is context. Where I think the BBC's fallen down in the Middle East coverage is not where it's biased one way or the other, but the context. Where was the detailed programme about Hamas, who funded it, what they thought of? Where's the detailed programme about the Israeli right and its religious right and its influence and those contextual things? Go if you don't have current affairs. No, the licence fee is doomed. It's a question of how long. We're all doomed. And as you get older, you became more understanding of that. It's a question of how long you got. And I think that, in 10 years' time, we won't have a licence fee. But the trouble is, every alternative has problems. Advertising would destroy. Well, you'd be in trouble if the BBC took advertising. I'm afraid.
Yeah.
You look at trying to do it directly. Subscription. Significant number of people in this country are digitally not online. So you'd be switching off a lot of people if you did that immediately. Suggestion of a household tax, which would be progressive, i.e. people wouldn't all pay the same. You'd have a range of payments. But again, a tax and the government could vary that and say, I don't like. My own view is that we'll end up with something like eventually a two-tier system, a basic license fee, which is much lower, which pays for a number of agreed things, and then subscription for drama and other things, which then a year later or 6 months later will be available to everybody. But if you want to get it, when it's released, you'll have to subscribe. I think we're moving in that direction because, as you say, increasing numbers are refusing to pay the license fee.
Well, Gibraltar, we're going to have to leave it there, but thank you
Always
so much.
interesting, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely, for joining us this morning. Well, in response to this story, Tim Davie, the BBC Director General, said...
The results of the question are clear. Our audience want an independent Beeb delivering high-quality programmes and content they can trust that tells the stories that matter to them and reflect their lives. You and I don't think they do tell the stories always that
Some of the stories they select are very obscure. Well, up next, find out why 60% more adults could be classified as obese.
But first, if you want that holiday sun, stay tuned.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Some showers heading over the Canaries over the next few days. We've seen some torrential downpours across parts of Spain and Italy recently. Things turning drier here, however. Plenty of sunshine for Spain and Portugal on Friday. And the sunshine returning to much of Italy. Still a few showers across the far south. The wet weather, though, is moving into Croatia and mainland Greece, although most of the Greek islands further east will be dry and sunny. And we'll see the sunshine returning to Dubrovnik through the weekend. Meanwhile, further showers likely in Tenerife.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here at GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Britain was once the envy of the world. But look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Now, in a shake-up over how obesity is measured, 8 million Britons could be deemed obese. Well, we're joined by the director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock. Sarah, good morning. This is about how body mass index is measured. Do you think that the powers that be are right to reclassify many, many more people as obese?
I don't know if it's about being right of reclassifying. What it's doing is stratifying risk better, because I think up to now we've just gone with the BMI as making a scale. And so lots of people with a higher BMI don't necessarily have the health implications associated with it. We know like rugby players, etc., have high BMIs and classed as living with obesity when they're not. So I think what this is doing is taking the measurements and making it more kind of risk related rather than actually around just having a larger BMI. So I do think that's the right way to go for sure.
And we know that Britain has an obesity crisis already. What's the number one thing that someone who's worried about their weight should do?
I think it's about just focusing around your health. Are you doing the right things for your health? So as in, are you moving a bit more and are you nutritionally fueling your body correctly? Like those are the main things I would focus on. And then also, are you getting the care and support that you can? Are you speaking to your GP? Are you getting access to medications and things, which we know the answer is no to a lot of people right now, but there are options available for people. So yeah, that's what I would say.
Sarah LeBrock, very wise advice. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it from Britain's Newsroom. Up next, Good Afternoon Britain with Tom McDowell.
Do you understand the China spy story? Well, we're going to try and break it down in less than a minute.
Yes, that's a challenge. We have a great exclusive interview with Kemi Badenoch coming up as well. You don't want to miss what she's got to say.
And indeed, energy prices being soared, indeed going up by green levies. That's what the energy companies are now saying.
Energy's up, but knickers are down. Find out more about that one coming up after the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Morning, welcome along to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. We are going to see a change in the weather through the weekend, but for today it's kind of more of the same. Another largely cloudy, mostly dry day with light winds. Say mostly dry, there are a few light showers around, particularly over northern Scotland and East Anglia in the southeast of England, seeing a bit of a dank and drizzly start in places too. There are also some breaks in the clouds, so some places waking up to a little bit of sunshine, and any morning mist and fog in place will tend to clear away fairly rapidly through the morning. And with a bit of brightness, we could reach 15, 16 degrees. Most places, though, staying quite cloudy with temperatures about 12 or 13 degrees. Not a great deal of change as we go through this evening. Still one or two showers over the Northern Isles of Scotland, and still perhaps one or two showers just coming in along the south coast of England. But generally here dry, perhaps some breaks in the cloud, particularly to the west of hills, so parts of southwest England, West Wales, seeing a little bit of sunshine. Staying fairly cloudy for Northern Ireland and most of Scotland. But again here, just like the past few days, parts of central Scotland seeing some sunshine, but a few of those showers keeping going over northern Scotland, and we'll keep things a little damp across northernmost parts of the mainland through the night too. And we'll continue to see one or two of those showers getting into parts of Kent, perhaps just drifting through the channel into parts of East Devon as well. We could see a few showers. Otherwise, mostly dry nights. We'll keep a lot of clouds, and that'll keep the temperatures up to between about 7 to 10 Celsius, maybe dipping a little lower in some rural spots, particularly if we have any breaks in the cloud. But again, tomorrow, breaks in the cloud, hard to find for most. Another fairly drab day. Still some light showers across the far north of Scotland and at times along the south coast of England. Southwest Wales may again see some breaks in the cloud, as could parts of western Scotland, and a bit of sunshine. But generally dry and cloudy will again be the theme on Friday, but it is going to change as we head into the weekend.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's just 3 weeks left to see how you could be our biggest winner this year. First, you could be driving away with this brand new Benamar Primera motorhome. This luxury vehicle comfortably sleeps 4, has its own fitted kitchen and bathroom areas, and comes complete with fitted awning and bicycle rack. And that's not all, as we'll also give you a whopping £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB16 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 31st of October. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day.